interactions, home assist devices, dictation transcriptions. I apologize for the misspelling. There's a program available off the shelf called Deep Scribe, where a microphone is placed in the exam room and the doctor examines, interviews the patient. The computer records the entire conversation, then generates a clinical note that can be used for the medical record without the clinician having to write anything other than to review it and sign it. And then also we see facial recognition, retinal scans for security authorizations. So AI is already here. What may not be so well known in parts of the world, and all of these are available in the US, is that in the criminal justice system, AI programs guide certain courts about what the sentencing guidelines should be. So if a person gets convicted of an armed robbery and the law says they can go to prison for 5 to 20 years, their information is analyzed by the computer and compared with persons with similar crimes and convictions and previous histories, and the computer will make a recommendation to the judge on how long the sentence should be. That's raised many ethical concerns, particularly there's evidence that there's built-in bias and outright racism in the algorithms that were not previously recognized. The same thing happens with loan applications, whether it's for a car, for a home. It's the computers that are analyzing the applicants, not only their credit history, but their personal history, and making recommendations. And the same things occurring with jobs. So in the US, we have more jobs available than we have people to work, and yet thousands of people say they can't get a job, and it turns out they're being eliminated by the computer screens. And so their application never gets to a person to review for an interview. We also, customer services, anytime we want to get help on our technological equipment, we're most likely to be interacting with a computer algorithm. And we've generated the same thing for psychotherapy, or you can get a chat box that does the bulk of the therapy. Now, a lot of the technology and concepts has been around for decades. I started off with some introduction to AI 40 years ago, but there's a confluence of changes which have accelerated this just in the past 3 to 4 years. The advent of smartphones, certainly the platforms for Facebook and other social media, and this is prefaced that digital data is the fuel for AI. Then along that time, we had mandated electronic health records in the US. And so instead of paper and pencil charts, which are very difficult for computers to read, with digital data, they can read it in seconds. Then there's now international strategic planning and competition for development in AI. Various governments have identified AI as the tool that will give them advantages in economically, advantages in science and technology, and unfortunately, advantages in weaponization. In healthcare, we've used telemedicine just in the past years with the advent of the pandemic, which greatly expands digital data. And then we've had a concurrent awareness of potential biases, racism built into AI programs, not intentionally, but part of, unfortunately, the flaws of human interactions. And we've got more awareness of the potentials for worsening economic and other types of inequalities in our society. So now we have the billionaires have actually gotten markedly more wealthy during the past couple of years than and the disparities have widened. In healthcare, I'm going to make reference to, it'll be easy for one to have one resource. This is Baudelaire Mesco, who has a website called The Medical Futurist, and I have the specific reference at the end of the slide. And it talks about the growth in publications. Here's how we're moving towards data being collected both actively where the patient interacts with the smartphones or other devices, or passively where they have wearables that collect data about them. So you no longer have to go to the physician's office, clinic, or hospital to get very important medical information acquired and available for interpretation. So this can all be done at home. I've got in my own house a little device smaller than an iPod, which is the stethoscope and also generates an EKG. And for additional funds, you can not only get the EKG patterns and take it to your doctor, or you could have it transmitted to a cardiologist for interpretation, and that interpretation goes to your doctor. So the dream of artificial intelligence, this is advocated by Eric Topol from the Scripps Institute, has a book on it called Deep Medicine. And this is from Dr. Mesco's paper, is that it takes the physician-patient from being separated, where all our attention right now is on the electronic health record, trying to put data in, and that's just extremely inefficient use of clinical resources, is have us acquire data. Whereas with AI, the data can be acquired, analyzed, and presented in graphics that the physician can then guide the decision making with the patient to. So the dream is that it'll enhance and provide opportunities to reestablish the physician-patient relationship. However, this does take work. And as we saw, the number of articles are skyrocketing that are based on AI. So we have to change our medical education to include the skill set that we can read the literature and start being more critical. Because there is so much involved for various startup companies, they could be prone to maybe be more optimistic about their programs than is warranted. For the sake of time, I won't read each of these, but this is sort of a suggested guideline from Dr. Mesco on how we can read the literature. A colleague of ours, Dr. Rajiv Tandon, who's the editor of the Asian Journal of Psychiatry, has become an expert in this field. And for their reviewers, they require that they go through a 50-item checklist on the details of if articles use machine learning or other AI techniques. I'm going to skip this for the sake of time so we can break out into small groups. As we've sort of introduced, AI leads to knowledge, and we know knowledge is power, but we have to be concerned that power corrupts. So this knowledge is being collected by corporations. It's often not transparent. Even the people who designed the programs have difficulty telling how, in a neural network program, how the AI algorithms generate the output that they do. But we do know that with accumulation of power, they can get more power, and then we have a situation where it's abused. So there's various entities, and these slides and references will be available for you that have gotten together to sort of think what type of guidelines we need. This is one I highly recommend. It's something that individuals can use. How can we adjust our everyday life to protect ourselves from undue influence of others? So this person that founded this institute is, we call it a defector from Google. I'll make reference to a documentary called The Social Dilemma. If you've not seen that, it should be able to get on some streaming service. It's a documentary about exactly how Facebook and other social media deliberately target people and feed certain types of information specifically to alter behaviors. The UNESCO chair in artificial intelligence is established. There's multitude of variety of organizations. I highlight this one because its mission is to work on the equity aspects of AI. And this we'll talk a little bit more in the next sessions. From Harvard, it's the Berkman Klein Center for Technology and Governance. I find this graphic extremely interesting. They went through 47 different codes of ethics and found common themes. So each of these items around the wheel are different entities that have a code of ethics. Each of these lines and these circles are common themes. So equity, privacy, accountability, and then the dots on these lines indicate whether or not and to what degree that code of ethics addressed it. The different colors divides it out, whether it's a government organization, an NGO, an international group, or a professional association. So a lot of information from this one graphic. For sake of time, I'll have to skip this. And now we can think about the small groups. I see there's almost 30 people. Do you want to try all 5 groups? And do we do breakout rooms?
Sure, Professor, we can do that. Amol?
Yes,
okay.
So we'll just break into groups of 5. Is that okay?
Okay, 5 each. And do you have a way they can divide up, or do they just sort of choose a topic and we'll see how that works?
We can do that automatically also.
Oh, you'll assign them. Okay. And so we'll allow about 20 minutes for discussion and then get back and they can present, or 15 minutes. So it's your preference.
Sure.
So you need 5 rooms?
Would you be moving to the rooms?
I could, in other settings, I've been able to move through the rooms. Right.
Yeah, you would be able to move. Yeah.
Right. I've done that before.
Yeah. All right. So Piyush, maybe go ahead and divide the attendees into 3 or 5 groups. 5 groups, maybe. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, creating 5 rooms.
Yeah.
Opening.
I think Sir has been added to a group too.
Oh, Joe's. Yeah, but I think he wanted to move between the groups. So I think he will, go through the different rooms and check once, because they won't have a lot of clarity about what exactly to do after being in the breakout rooms. So it's better he goes into different groups and
No, but I
shares.
got added into one of the rooms where Sir was, and he said, I'm going to step out for a moment. When I'm not sure. Maybe he'll figure it out, I'm sure.
Oh, okay. He's in room 5 right now, right?
Yeah, maybe he's discussing it with them.
Maybe I'll just join and see what's going on.
Yeah.
I was changing devices so I can get a camera.
Hi, sir.
Hi.
How are you?
So, yeah, good morning.
I'm so sorry for the confusion about the timings.
Oh, I understand it's a challenge. Professor D'Souza and I took about 30 minutes to figure out one of the times. Apparently the challenge is, well, our time zone just changed last weekend. And so what was the correct time last week is a different time this week.
I think we probably missed that because we sent our invites early.
Um, so it's a little after 5 p.m. in India.
So it's almost 5:45 in India.
Oh, okay, that's right. 10 and a half hour difference.
Yeah, so you can take a couple of extra minutes. That's not an issue.
Okay. So these, what's the event later? Professor D'Souza said there's something like open in session later today or in the morning.
So we have a couple more workshops right now, and then we have an inauguration session later.
Okay, and that's your time. Will it be in the morning or?
Yes, so it'll be in the morning according to our
Okay.
time. So probably the evening according to your time.
Okay.
If you want, I can forward you the schedule of the entire event. If you'd
Oh,
like
yes,
to see it.
that'd be great. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I'll just email it to you. So you're currently based in Florida?
I'm in Florida, yes. And where are you in India? Are you in New Delhi or?
I'm 2 hours away from New Delhi.
Okay.
I think everyone understands New Delhi, so it's easier to explain with reference to.
Yeah. Mhm. So is Mumbai within 2 hours of New Delhi? Or
No, sir. Mumbai is a couple, like half a day away from Delhi.
Oh, okay.
If you'd like to visit each room and see how, like, whether they understand the topic, we can manage that in another 5 minutes. We'll give them.
Okay. I will do that.
Because I think even though AI is so relevant, this can be a slightly challenging topic maybe to discuss.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Bye-bye.
Professor, we have closed the breakout rooms. So if you want to continue.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you. Good to be able to see people now. Thank you for the discussions. If we may, let's go through the groups just 1 through 5. If one person from each group could summarize the discussion for all of us. So group 1.
Good evening, sir. So I'm Dr. Himabindu, pursuing post-graduation in community medicine from Vardha. And my teammate in breakout 1, we were 2 people, me and Vaishnavi, and she is doing her master's in neuroscience. So since there were just 2 of us, we decided that we'll have a discussion, but while presenting, we'll present our own aspects. Is that okay?
Okay.
Okay. So, sir, when I had a discussion with her, we discussed mainly about how already existing AI is helping a lot in our respective fields. So, in public health, AI is used broadly, not as much as it could be. So, there's a lot more potential that can be utilized. But already it's helping in the ways that you said, that AI has much faster processing speed than human brains, and it has a much larger capacity to store data, and retrieving data is much more easy with AI. So if whenever we go for health surveys, if we start inputting data on a database, then it would be much easier with the help of AI, that when a person from rural center comes to a tertiary center, his data or his medical records can be retrieved instantly. In rural center, some other doctor would have seen him, and in tertiary center, for a doctor to go through another doctor's or multiple doctors' files would be quite burdensome. But if it were all his medical data was available on a database, then it would make processing his diagnosis and whatever else investigations he needs much easier. That's it from my end, sir. And also, AI can help a lot in healthcare deliveries. Like in the pandemic, we saw that the rural people faced a lot of problem because all the everything apart from emergency services were shut down, and then telemedicine and mobile health came a lot into play. So if we had good AI programs which could diagnose common ailments with the help of just inputting your symptoms and measure your own temperature and let us know, and give the over-the-counter medications, at least for the uneducated people, it would be of much help. This is already existing, but if it could be taken to the next level to realize its full potential, then it would be very helpful. That's all from me, sir.
Okay, very good. When you go to practice a couple of years from now, you probably will see those type of things available. Group 2. Talk. Good evening.
I'm Dr. Avi.
Good.
And
go ahead.
So in our group, we had Vishnu and Yash. I think we were the 3 active people in the moment. And we were asked the question, if and how can AI be made more equitable for the society? So I think more or less we came to the similar grounds. So what we think is definitely in a developing country like India, at a lot of places AI is being used, but in evolving it further would be novel to a major chunk of the population. And having evidence as well that AI is pretty volatile right now in terms of it being evolving to limitless potentials. Definitely, we agree on the fact that its benefits need to be equitable to everyone, but it needs to happen in a very gradual and in a very controlled fashion, just to ensure that things don't go out of hands. Also, the benefits I believe should definitely be equitable. However, the development of different AI technologies can definitely be made restricted based on specific conditions being fulfilled. And I also love the fact that it was written equitable and not equal. So it makes sense that it needs to be given in a way by ensuring not the biases that we have as society, But if there are specific prerequisites and safeguards in place to ensure that that AI function can be much more beneficial than any possibility of facing any adverse events. So I think those were the three major points that we could come up with. Besides that, if anyone from my team has any point that I might have missed, I'm really sorry. You can definitely add on to it. Thank you, Doctor.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Very good. We'll move on to group 3. Has a little bit different type of topic on singularity. If we have someone from group 3, they're on mute. Well, singularity is an unusual topic, so we can come back to that. Let's go to group 4. What are the standards of ethics needed to adapt to AI? Anyone from group 4?
Yes. Hi, sir. Good morning to you.
Hi, good day.
So basically, as you just mentioned, standards of AI in standards of ethics in AI. What me and my group were able to discuss was the inherent need for, consent and privacy. Like as per your guidelines, it is a mandate. It is a definite mandate. With the applications of AI, the beneficence part does get balanced out, but the autonomy and the justice and the non-maleficence strictly stand its roots within the consent and the privacy aspect of applications of AI. What we were able to discuss was that while consent is mandatory, and a lot of companies do that. A lot of websites do go ahead and do that with the use of cookies and terms and conditions agreements. However, in order to make it more, to justify whether some people may have a difference of opinion, the simple lack of inaccessibility to those websites or this thing, in case you turn down on those terms and conditions where they can utilize your data for whatever purpose it is that they're phishing, that is a breach of autonomy, and that needs to be corrected. Secondly, with regards to privacy, especially in healthcare settings, where electronic records can be shared with doctors all over, what can be done is that the person, the participant, can actually choose exactly how much data or till what time can the data be accessed, the person that they're giving access to. In that ways, some amount of privacy and this thing can be maintained, and it will be utilized in the manner that it is actually intended to. And additionally, to keep a track of all this, basically no ethical breaches happening within the healthcare institutions, maybe a specialist for AI can actually be put on the ethics board simply to oversee the day-to-day applications.
Okay, very good. So you bring up a topic that we are seeing more addressed, in that we need technical expertise to advise us in various areas. So an ethics board, consent board, and as we operate. Very good. Also, we're need to change our medical education to be sure all of us have a basic understanding.
Correct.
Very good. Thank you. Group 5, should corporations be held to standards of ethics?
Good morning to you, sir. Myself, Dr. Nitin. I just passed out and I'm a practicing doctor, currently awaiting my lab results. So basically, it's actually not a group. My group mates were not present, so I'm practically giving my own views regarding this topic.
Okay.
So what I've understood from the topic was corporate ethics for AI. On asking, I got the impression that should the big companies be governing AI or free market be governing AI? I'll give my view regarding that. I mean, there should be regulatory bodies. In case of corporate ethics for AI, the corporates are always in view of looking out for their own profit. So they should always be regulated by some ethical body regarding AI, because unless they are regulated, they'll always be in pursuit for profit and other higher obviously higher in profitability. So they'll never be viewing the ethical side of this AI. So I think the corporates should always be put forward regarding ethics, and regarding free markets governing AI. I think free market is actually based on unrestricted competition. So if in case of unrestricted competition, we'll always have newer and newer improvisations regarding AI, and it will always push the boundaries. So always there should be ethical control over this, and it shouldn't be governed by so this ethics shouldn't be put forward by specific governments. It should always be done by general UN guidelines or something like that. Worldwide guidelines should be there, because it can easily go out of hand. So I think we should have ethical guidelines for AI, especially in case of corporates, because they usually have their own. The ethical side of corporates are shady, to say the least. So they obviously have a higher potential for the development of our AI infrastructure, but I don't think they should be given a monopoly over these things, and it should be under some governing body or regulatory body.
Okay,
That's all.
very good. So understood that not only should corporations have standards of ethics, but they should be held accountable by an external entity for these standards. And since this affects all of us, there should be some globally recognized standard. So I'll put a plug in that UNESCO convenes its general session next month, and they're expected to ratify a universal declaration on ethics in artificial intelligence. So hopefully they'll provide a framework for us to use and to guide us in dealing with these corporations. Very good, thank you. So now we'll see if there's anyone from Group 3 or Singularity, or I'll make a few comments about it. I know there was a Group 3.
Professor, probably I'll go ahead and share some of my views on Singularity.
Okay, good.
And the way I see Singularity is like any other technology. There is always some speculation regarding how it will be used or what it might become in due course of time. If we talk about nuclear energy, a similar speculation always existed of whether we are going to build nuclear power plants or we are going to make nuclear weapons out of this. I think for Singularity, it might be very foolish to actually base the development of an entire technology that is so advanced like AI, which can help in multiple areas. It's not a technology that is limited to a very specific type of purpose or use. It can be utilized in various sectors for various things. Basing it on a speculation that a singularity might occur, the artificial intelligence might become conscientious or aware. We do not know that will happen, one. Second, if that happens, are we really in the position to understand how bad it would be for the humanity or anything like that? I feel at this moment, Professor, you would know better. At this moment, are we as mankind very sure that if the singularity happens, then it is always going to be a bad thing? Or do we have any idea, even if it is bad, like how bad, we do not know. So basing the basing the development of such an advanced technology on a speculation of singularity, whether it will go out of hand or not, looks to me like holding the progress of science in the name of such speculation. So we might want to be very cautious, careful, We should make sure about the standardization of things and things like that. We should also probably think of, I'm just adding to my view about the corporatization and whether the AI should stay in the free market. That those might be the areas where we can frame rules, standardizations, and how the AI is controlled and who gets access to it. That might be a more relevant topic of discussion. Instead of maybe basing the entire development of AI, whether we should go ahead with it or not, based on a fear from singularity. That's what I feel about it.
Okay, thank you. Very thoughtful. I'll share sort of similar ideas. My thing is, I think we should be cautious. We should learn about it and be cautious. I'm not sure we can stop it. I appreciate the analogy with nuclear power. That's what I often use because we're all impacted by it. So if one country or one corporation decides to pursue singularity with the notion that they could control it through their advantage, it could be that they're blinded. Their dreams of what it can do blinds them against the risk. So I think we need strategies of being aware of what each other's doing. Some people having some caution, and also another group of people having a strategy for mitigation, that if it does happen, how can we protect ourselves? But the idea that we don't have to worry about it, that it's because it's not possible, which is a common strategy. I'm not willing to risk my soul on that one. Well, y'all have been very thought-provoking this morning for me, evening for you. I hope the next few days continue to grow well. Any final questions for me?
If you have any questions, please raise your hand.
Sir, I have a question.
Go ahead.
How do you be cautious against singularity? I mean that it's not exactly sure, but according to some of the rumors, one lab in Wuhan was enough to cause a worldwide pandemic. So maybe one mad scientist is all you need to develop the next generation robotics.
It probably takes more than one mad scientist, but it doesn't take all of them. So you're correct. How will we know? And in my dream world, I think that's one of the strategies is what I call counterintelligence. I started a talk about that people involved in the tech industry are also very concerned. They're the ones who are talking about it. And there's efforts to develop AI programs to monitor AI, to search for evidence of this type of thing happening and to provide an alert. The Wuhan lab, apparently it wasn't unknown that it existed. It's still, I don't know. Even when we read what's in the press or whatever, it's hard to know what's real. We do know that China certainly responded first to the pandemic with pretty serious intervention. So that caught my attention in January 2020. I'm part of disaster responses for locally. And when we saw that they tried to shut down a city of 11 million people, we figured it was pretty serious then. But then they'd already let 5 million people leave the city. So the idea of containment, as we see, we have to have other strategies besides containment, because if it fails, we all have to be able to respond. So I guess that's the answer to your question is, we may not know, we may not be able to stop it, but we need to have a strategy for dealing with it when it occurs.
Thank you, sir. I definitely, your point that AI can help us control AI definitely resonates with me. I think that's the only way out. Counterintelligence.
Yeah, right.
Amol, could you please moderate the chat box?
I think Karan Shah has a question. Karan, could you unmute and ask directly, or? is your I think I'll just ask what Karan. Okay. Karan has asked, considering the benefits of the use of AI and technology, how do you convince the current review and governing bodies for adapting?
Well, again, in healthcare and psychiatry, our strategy is education. To some people still think AI is off in the future, and that's why we have sessions like this. We're trying to sort of get a more understanding that AI is here and now. And you trainees, students, professionals are going to be the decision makers in a few years. You don't realize how much power and influence you have, but you do. And it'll be up to you to sort of influence the people around you to consider these issues and to link with people with expertise in the area.
So I have a question. So
Sure.
in our everyday lives, we don't realize it, but like AI is already changing, like it's kind of conforming the way we think through like Instagram. Like they show you the ads that you would like and the content that you would like. So how do you stop something when you don't know that it's affecting you in such a major way?
Right. So again, this is where I feel like I do have a role as a psychiatrist. And I mentioned the Center for Humane Technology. People don't realize how a unique thing about humans, we have ability to learn, we have neuroplasticity, and you could take a reductionist view of how we behave. So it's true, we can be manipulated. The thrilling part, though, of being human is that we can program ourselves, that we have that capacity. And so simple things recommended by the Center for Humane Technology is simply take a break, to disconnect from the web and other things. 15 minutes, an hour a day, ideally it'd be, they take days off at a time. But for any activity we've ever had, we recognize we need time to ourselves. We need time to reflect on ourselves, our meaning in this world. In disclosure, I've worked in a prison environment, and I had a conversion experience 30 years ago. So I'm Catholic, and so we have certain practices and rituals to sort of stay centered. And each person, we highly recommend for mental health that we do that even before we had all these issues, but it's critically important that we recognize it now. So it's mainly to take control over our own thoughts and lives, at least for a few minutes a day.
Is it okay if I can ask one question?
Sure.
I had this, I would actually want your views in it, and just let us know how correct we are in this perception. So what I realized after studying about AI, the amount that I have, I mean, there's a perception to it when we call it artificial intelligence, but at the very core of it, it's just another way we have evolved our machines. So it's just machine learning and deep learning, right? So it looks to us, and in a way we allow the technology to think for novel situations, but it's programming at the heart of it, right? Which is different from that is why we call it artificial intelligence and not human intelligence. So like we have this fear of it going out of our hands. Can we not just incorporate some programming systems into it, just very easily, just to avoid it going into certain directions which we might be fearful of, that it might get out of hands? So I mean, artificial intelligence does not need to be absolute, is what one possible solution comes to my head. So I would really want your views on that to help us think even broader.
Okay, well, thank you. We're in similar mind of thought. As I have a different talk next week on governance of AI, it's really not governance of AI, it's governance of people who develop and control AI. So that's what it all comes down to. And it's a epic issue we've dealt with in humanity in all our history. Some people want to acquire power at the expense of the population. So whether it's the Genghis Khan or the Roman Empire or whatever, there's some people who want to accumulate power, and they generally think they can control it, all the way up through nuclear weapons. And you're correct, there's nothing magical currently about AI. It's really computer enhancement. So just like we developed the symbols and could write with hieroglyphics, and then we got the papyrus and the printing press, it's just on a different scale now. But just like nuclear weapons could destroy not only humanity, but life on Earth, AI could disrupt our consciousness. So the inherent notion that some people want power is our still struggle in strategies to counteract it. For what it's worth, no one ever maintained global power for forever, obviously.
Thank you so much, sir. Definitely answers in spirit.
Okay.
Vishnu, you want to speak?
So actually, I just had it out, but if there is time,
Go
I
ahead,
know
go
we
ahead.
are
Yeah, that's time.
So,
Go ahead. If professor can
okay.
take the question, that's time.
So carrying forward from what Dr. Avi just mentioned, I also wanted to know, like, even with artificial intelligence, what there is a certain, among some doctors, there's a certain misconception that artificial intelligence may end up replacing their diagnostic skills, or it may take away their jobs, or it may lead to a reduction of their scope of their practice in the future. So how do we actually go about correcting this misconception, which is widely spread among a few practitioners?
Okay, I can address that fairly short, brief time. I understood your question about professional replacement. Can it happen? Will it happen? What do we do in other job sectors? Clearly, there'll be jobs lost or no longer necessary due to technological developments. We've seen that in multiple industries. There is things that a number of healthcare personnel do that can be replaced by AI. One of my favorite quotes, though, is by Eric Tobel, who I mentioned earlier, wrote the book Deep Medicine. He says AI is not going to replace physicians. Physicians who use AI will replace physicians who don't. The main promise for AI is to expand access to healthcare. So it's not like we have too many healthcare workers, but we're not equitably distributed, and we're not efficient. So we should be able to greatly improve global healthcare. As we think about this topic, there's the notion we worry about people being displaced from jobs. And let me offer a suggestion. Why do we have to work for money? we work, we work to produce things, but the notion is computers and robotics will replace those things. So what's the role of humans if we're not necessary to produce things? And what we do is we spend money. That's what our current economy is based on, is we spend money. So I'll try to work through this analogy real quickly. Let's say we have 100 billionaires sitting around a table, and they want to control a country of 300 or manage a country with 300 million. So we have 100 billionaires, 300 million people. And so and none of those people are working. So what are they going to do? So those billionaires each give everyone $500,000. I haven't done the exact math, but they just still have plenty of money left over. So you get $500,000 and your job is to spend it. And that's where the economy comes in, because it's, why do people gamble? What's produced in gambling is you shift money. And so we play the game so we can get more money or less money, or spend our time on activities that we think are important or pleasing. And so that's really what our economy is based on. So instead of being a job-based economy or consumer-based, it'll be spending-based. That's just a speculation on my part. But those are the types of questions I think we will be looking at.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
All right. I think, Professor, there are no more questions. So thank you for this wonderful session. And I think it was very interesting to discuss these different aspects of artificial intelligence. And also the insights that you shared were those insights were very useful. Probably it helps us define AI in a different way and to think about more aspects about it. I think thank you all the participants, Amol especially, for coordinating the workshop, and all the attendees who made time to attend this workshop. I also apologize, Professor, if there was some confusion with the times, and I'm not sure what happened, but we are really sorry if that caused you any inconvenience.
Well, now I know what time it is, so we're good.
Yeah. Thank you, Professor.
Okay, thank you. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. We'll close the session now. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Amol, the next session is 7:30, right?
Yeah. It'll start at 7:30, and I think it goes up to 9 o'clock.
9. Yeah, true.
There are 2 sessions.
All right.
Dr. Elora and
Stacey Gannon.
Hanji.
All right. See you then. Goodbye.